you can say, hey, my drivers have this official pass training, and that actually can help you win business.
Invest in them. And if you invest in them, they will stick around.
Welcome back to NEMT Experts. I've got Jim Cermak with me, who is the product training manager at Driverge and has a strong social media presence. Jim, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks so much for having me on today. This is exciting.
Yeah, thanks for being here, especially since you just got back from your journey north of the wall to do driver trainings in Calgary.
Yeah.
Jim, you were telling me you do 800 driver trainings a year. Is that right?
Well, 800 people, roughly 800 people a year. Yeah. So a lot of trainings. A lot. When we figure out the average number I train at any given time is probably 5 to 6. It's well over 100 trainings a year.
Okay, Jim, can you give us a little background about how you got into driver trainings and your experience in the industry?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been in the industry for going on 14 years. And when I first started, I was the head of marketing for Mobility Works for our company. And I was doing a lot more training in the marketing. And word got around from our customers. They were loving the training. And the president of the company came up to me and said, "Hey, what are you doing with this driver training?" And the customers are really liking it. So I think we should do more of that. So I went full time into the training role. And for the past 6-ish years, I've been doing just driver training. So getting out there, meeting the people and making sure that the drivers understand the correct way, not only to secure somebody. That's just a small part of it. Securing someone in a wheelchair in the vehicle, not that it's a small part, it's a critical part, but it's a small part of the entire thing. This is a long journey with somebody. It's going from greeting the people, understanding how to interact with them, how to get them safely on board, and as well as obviously secured. So I look at myself kind of as a lifesaver because if people don't understand the right way, we make the best and the safest vehicles available, but the vehicles are the people are only as safe as the drivers. So that's a commitment we're making as a company to continue to this training. And I know it's a long-winded answer to how we got here, but yeah, it was one of those things that was not planned out. It just kind of happened. And demand has been super strong for the 6 years I've been doing this.
That's awesome. And it's really not to be underestimated. You literally are saving lives. I mean, driver training, especially in this industry, when you're transporting people who are vulnerable, elderly, disabled, I mean, that is the difference between lives being saved and lost a lot of times. And I think a lot of NEMT businesses, they realize that, but unfortunately, a lot of them also don't. They see driver trainings as a cost. And what they don't realize is down the road, when there is an issue because the driver hasn't been trained properly and that results in an accident, it's going to cost a lot more. So let's dive into this topic of driver trainings. Like we discussed, one of the big things that you train on is a specific thing called PASS, which is Passenger Assistance, Safety, and Sensitivity. And I know you were telling me, Jim, that there are states and broker companies that require this specific type of training. So if you could just tell us about what PASS is, who requires it, and why, just a little bit about, what is this PASS?
Sure. I'm not sure of every state across the country. However, I'll get a little bit about PASS training. So PASS is the creation, or it's the training program that was developed by the CTAA, which is the Community Transportation Association of America. And they kind of set the standard as to the training that needs to be done. I think it started with public transit, but has flowed from public transit into NEMT space, into the rideshare space. Anytime somebody is, as part of their business, is transporting someone in a wheelchair, they need this training. So it has become the gold standard across the country. And I think there's like 10,000 people a year that go through this training across the US. So all 50 states, I have trained in, I think, 37 of those 50. So, which is kind of cool, but it is like I said, the gold standard. It's the best practices. They're constantly evolving it. Right now we're on PAS 7.0. PAS 8.0 is being worked on right now. I'm honored to be part of that process of reviewing and making this the best it can be. What are we lacking currently, and how do we nuance and tweak it so that it is as best as it can be, so that drivers understand the immense responsibility that they have. And being a driver, for a lot of the people that I meet, especially those who've been in this industry for a while, it's a passion for them. It is something that they just love doing. They see their role correctly as somebody who is truly making a difference in the people's lives that they are interacting with, versus someone who's just a driver. Someone who's just I'm picking somebody up and I'm taking them to their appointment. I'm taking them to the store, whatever. No, it's really a mindset shift, and PASS effectively does that in helping people understand the role that they play and they're not cargo, they're people. They're not a wheelchair. They're not a device. It's a person, and we need these drivers to understand. So it's a powerful program.
Absolutely. And I just want to highlight the numbers that you mentioned. So 10,000 drivers a year get trained in PASS in this country. And Jim, you yourself train 800 drivers a year. So you are literally training 8% of the drivers who get trained on PASS in this country in a year, right?
Not all 800 are PASS. We have other programs that I train on that are also wheelchair secure, but I would say probably 500 of those are PASS. Yeah. So that's kind of cool. That's kind of cool.
5% of the drivers who get trained on PASS. Yeah, like you mentioned, there are other sort of lighter versions of PASS. And I think you had mentioned that Motive Care, MTM, in some states like Florida and Ohio, they require PASS or some equivalent of PASS driver training. And can you tell us about, what those equivalents are that are sort of like maybe a lighter version of PASS?
Well, I'm not 100% sure of what other programs are out there, but I know that, PASS is far and away the number one program. That is what people are looking for. That's what they're asked for. We get calls and requests almost daily from companies saying, hey, I need to get PASS trained to be able to get my Medicare license. And that's what you mentioned, the state of Ohio. That's where I'm located. And so I know that for a fact. Florida is the same way. I know in Ohio, there's another program called Drive, which I believe was developed by the Ohio Department of Transportation. Another very good comprehensive training program. A little bit different. I have not been through that, but I know that. And then other states, I believe, have other programs that they have developed like that have become approved for use with brokers like Motive Care, MTM, and things like that. So it's a matter of doing your research to find out if it's not PASS, if something else. Especially if you're working with a broker and they're requiring you, and you can't find a PASS trainer, because I know they're hard to find, because I get calls all the time. Hey, when can you come to Philadelphia? When can you come to Los Angeles? I can't find anybody. So that is it's go to your broker and say, I can't find a PASS trainer, or what other programs are acceptable for us to be able to start our contract, and that they'll let you know.
Gotcha. So let's put ourselves in the shoes of an NEMT business who maybe is seeing this and realizes, oh, you know what? I know I had to do driver trainings. PASS is what it is. Jim Cermak is my man. What do I do? Like, I get Jim Cermak, or someone to come and do PASS training. Like, what does PASS training involve? Like, how long does it take? What are the components of it? What does it cost? If we can just break it down.
Absolutely. So, as far as the training, the way that we do it, it's about 9 hours total training. 4 hours of that is online. So there's a program called Pass Basic Online that is administered by the CTAA. It's a fantastic program. It's, like I said, it's 4 hours. It's online. It's video based. There's programs or modules you go through, and then you take tests. And it doesn't cover the securement part of it, but it covers a lot of other things that drivers need to know. First of all, driving as a professional, you are representing your company. You're going out there and you are in front of the customers. And how do you present yourself? How do you drive the right way? How do how do you dress? How do you act? It starts with that. And then it covers other things like how to interact with people with various disabilities, people who are on the autism spectrum. So not just people in wheelchairs or people using mobility devices who have a physical limitation, but like I said, people who are on the autism spectrum. What if someone has a seizure? It covers a lot of those kind of topics. Excuse me. And then it also covers what if there is a bio spill on your vehicle, okay? which can happen. What happens if someone starts bleeding? What do you do about that?
What's a bio spill?
So someone urinates on the vehicle, someone throws up on the vehicle. What do you do with that? Because we want to make sure that everybody is safe. And it's not just just because it's cleaned up, it's off the floor, it doesn't mean that it can't still be, there's still germs. So how do you effectively handle that in your vehicle so that you can keep your vehicle in motion and in service? So they do cover that.
Drivers to know how to deal with that.
Absolutely. And every NEMT company should understand that, because like you mentioned already, we're dealing with people who are vulnerable to one degree or another. Some people are just physically vulnerable. Others have maybe some respiratory issues. They have autoimmune issues. And so if they are all of a sudden come in contact with these germs, for most of us, we have an immune system that is no big deal. It's no big deal, and we can fend those things off. But for other people, the smallest thing can cause an illness. So we need to be very, very cognizant and aware of what is happening in our vehicle and how do we best take care of that. So the part of the PASS training, that online, does cover that. It's a wonderful, wonderful part of that program. So it's 4 hours of that online that is the everyday driving type of things. And then when we get in person, it's typically about 5 to 6 hours. So there's a 3-hour classroom session, which I go through with people, and we go through how to greet people when. Now, not the official greeting. Every company is going to be different in how you greet people, but how do you go and meet people? How do you bring them safely to the vehicle? Whether they're in a wheelchair, maybe they're on crutches, maybe they have a cane. What if they're legally blind? How do you best interact with those people to get them safely to the vehicle? Now you've got them to the vehicle. How do you get them on the vehicle? And maybe your accessible vehicle has a power lift, or maybe it's a minivan and it has a ramp system. How do you get people into the vehicle? And what if you have some issues? Okay, so how do you get someone in who's using a walker into the vehicle? No, they can't go up the steps. So am I allowed to put them on the lift? Okay, what's the right way to put them on the lift? Where do they stand? What do they do? What do I do as the driver? Okay, once they get to the top of the lift is all the way up, now what? Am I allowed to let them go in and find their own seat, or do I have to be inside? There's a lot of things that aren't normal common sense, that these are things that need to be trained. Yes, a person can operate safely. Whether it's a passenger, they might be able to do things on their own. They might have a level of independence. However, as a driver, we need to be in control as much as possible, because their safety is in our hands. And we need to make sure that we are aware of that. That is, and I whenever I do a training, I start by saying, who is the most important person in your life? And I have people, and I'll ask you, who is that for you? Who is that most important person for you?
My wife,
Your wife. Okay, fantastic. Has she ever been in a wheelchair?
she has not.
She has not. Well, good for her. But if she were, for whatever reason, she found herself in a wheelchair, she needed to be transported to a doctor's appointment. How do you want her to be treated and transported?
By a driver who's been trained in pass.
Good answer. Good answer. We want them treated with utmost respect and dignity, and we also want them treated with and transported with the utmost safety. And so we need to remember every single person we are interacting with is somebody's wife, somebody's mother or father, somebody's child. And that's somebody's most important person that's in your care. So we need to raise our level of awareness and remember that and treat them as if that was our most important person. Whether that person is grouchy to you, they're having a bad day, they smell, whatever the situation is, we need to be at our best.
If I were not already convinced, that would definitely convince everyone.
Yeah, it's important that drivers understand, because a lot of times I'll have brand new drivers who are brand new to this industry. Maybe they've been driving rideshare, they've driven bus, they've done driving before, but that driving allowed them to just sit in their seat. People came on board their vehicle, they got off. Maybe they were a good driver, maybe they were very pleasant, but now you have to get out of your seat and physically help someone get on board. You have to have an interaction with them that's so much more intimate than just them getting on board.
And this is
so
one
we
of
need to be aware of
huge
that.
differences between NEMT versus other types of transport. I get asked frequently, hey, like, Nirav, why aren't Uber and Lyft coming into this space in a bigger way? And this is one of the big reasons.
Absolutely. I train a lot of rideshare drivers, and they are just, some of them are all in and they take to it right away, and they have that passion. And a lot of them that are coming into this space have a family member that's in a wheelchair. My dad's been in a wheelchair, my uncle, so I've been around and I see how he's been treated, and I want him to be treated better. So they have a story, they have a level of passion about them, so which is fantastic. But a lot of times people are taken off guard by how much they have to do and how physical it is. This is a hard job.
It is.
But for some people, it's the best job they've ever had, because it can be so incredibly fulfilling.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Tell me this, Jim. The past training, like everything you described, everything it entails, all the different areas and topics to cover, this all happens within 9 hours. So like you mentioned, like 4 hours of it is online, and that happens before the actual in-person training.
Correct.
Then someone like yourself comes and does the other 5 hours in person in one session.
Yes, sir. Yeah. So we do, well, it's broken into two. So there's a classroom session, which we go over all the how-tos and the why and a lot of questions, and I just tell people, please ask as many questions as you have. I want, when my drivers leave my classroom, I want them to feel confident about what this is all about and comfortable with this whole process. And then when we're done with that, it's typically about 3 hours of classroom. And it all depends on what kind of interaction we have. If we have a lot of questions, it might go another half hour or even an hour more than that. Typically not much more than that. But then we go out to the vehicle and we will do hands-on training. I will make sure that everyone understands how to use the equipment. I do a full demo, and then we'll have every single person take the turn as a driver. And we also I want the people going through the class also to take a turn in the wheelchair. I want them to see, what is it like to go up that lift? What is it like to have someone responsible for securing you, to put the belts on you? It's very intimate. You can't get through this process without leaning on someone, rubbing up against them, touching them in some way, because you have to do that. And depending on the passenger, if they don't have use of their arms, you have to physically lift their arms to put belts on and things like that. So it's very intimate setting. You get to know this, and so your communication skills have to be top notch so that they understand what's happening, and so that you can build those relationships with people. It's so important. So we do that 3 hours of classroom, then we go to the hands-on, Like I said, everybody takes a turn completely onboarding, securing somebody, and then offboarding, and then they switch spots. The driver becomes a passenger and vice versa, and they go through it again until everybody has taken a turn going through that. And there's great value in a group setting, because if, say, you have 10 people there, everybody has the opportunity to watch everybody else doing it. And here's the questions, and here's me say, no, wait, don't do that. Remove that hook. You can't put it there. You have to put it here. So I don't want everyone just go through it and then come off and I say, well, you did these two things wrong. No, I want them to understand as they're doing it, what's going on, what is the best way to do it. And if they did it one way that's correct, and I have a better way or a more efficient way of doing it, then I'll tell them, so that they learn as they're going, as they're doing the hands-on. So all in all, it's about 5 to 6 hours.
And your passion for this is so infectious that when it's a group setting, I can just imagine everybody's just getting your energy and reinforcing it with each other. And it's all done in one day, these two 2.5 hour sessions, all in one day. Someone like yourself comes in, knocks out a session, there's a break, there's another session. And after that one day, the drivers they've completed this official pass driver training. So
Correct.
Anybody comes and inspects, whether it's a broker or a state, hey, are your drivers trained? They have that official training completed under their record. And how long does that record last for the driver? Is it 1 year? Is it 5 years?
Yeah, good question. It's a 2-year certification. So after 2 years, then there is a recertification process, which can typically be done online. And for a lot of companies, that is sufficient. If that driver's been with them for 2 years, they go online and they go through, it's about an hour and a half of a course. They recertify, and then they're good for another 2 years. Now, and I have some clients that I've worked with, colleges that don't have a high level of people in wheelchairs, and maybe they just have 1 or 2 students. And so their drivers don't do this on a regular basis. They might do this once every couple of weeks, and it's only with one specific person in a wheelchair or 2 different people. So they're not getting a lot of variety. They're not getting a lot of experience with that. They'll have me come back and they'll have me do the recertification training, even though they can do it online, because they want to make sure that their drivers are doing everything the right way. And it's, and if you're not using it, it's easy to lose those skills.
What does it cost an NEMT business to get past training done for their drivers?
Well, it is something that is different for every company. So the CTAA does charge a specific amount. We charge a specific amount. Everyone charges their own. There's not a standard rate across the board.
But the best value is if you're getting Jim Cermak.
Yeah, absolutely. We offer discounts, based on how many people you have going through the training and things like that. It's not a small investment. It's not a small investment, but for companies, if you could avoid one incident,
yeah,
it's paid for itself 100 times over.
If I'm an NEMT business with, let's say maybe 5 drivers or even fewer, what typically is the number of drivers where, hey, I need to get my drivers pass trained and I need to get someone to come in person and do it? Or do I send my drivers somewhere? Practically, what advice do you have for smaller NEMT business owners?
Yeah, it's a great question because that's typically a lot of who that I train is these smaller companies. I need typically to have at least 5 people to go on site somewhere and do the training. So if I'm going to this specific NEMT company, I'm going to their location, their facility, and I'm training their drivers, about 5 to 6 people is typically where it needs to be the minimum. For those smaller companies, we are a sister company of Mobility Works, and they have about 100 locations across the country. And so I will typically gravitate to one of the Mobility Works locations that typically will have some sort of a conference room or something, and we'll invite people in. I'm doing one, in fact, tomorrow, at a Mobility Works location in Columbus, Ohio. We have multiple companies coming in, and that's a great way to do it, to get more people, because they would not have the numbers for me to go on site. And also that way I can better allocate costs than them paying to have me to go right to them.
Yeah.
Because me coming from Cleveland, Ohio, like you said, I went to Calgary. Someone has to pay for that. And so
Yeah.
it is just one of those things. And if I can get a lot of companies together, then I could spread those costs around. If it's just one company, then they're going to have to foot the bill for that. That's just economics, unfortunately.
Gotcha. Let me ask a question. I know I'm getting into the nitty-gritty practicalities here, but let's say I'm an NEMT business owner. I got 5 drivers. I got someone to come and do past training. They're all set. Now I got driver number 6 and driver number 7 that I just hired. So I've only got 2 more drivers that I need trained. I mean, should I have someone come in and do it? Or, I mean, what do you recommend?
Yeah, it's a really, really good question, because that's the commonplace today. It's hard to find and keep good drivers, for one thing. So you've got turnover, and whether that is just natural to your business that you have turnover, or you're growing. And now you're, like you said, now I'm adding 2 new drivers. Now what do I do? I can't afford to have Jim come in. He traveled halfway across the country to get here, and we paid for that. Now what do we do? So there's a couple different avenues they can go down. One is to first contact us, and we could maybe schedule. I can go back to that city, find a location, and see if there's other companies we can get together to do a group training. That would be one option. Another option is I'm also what's called a past master trainer, which means I can train trainers. There's only a handful of us, but we can train trainers, and you can also go through the CTAA to become a past trainer. So, and that's what a lot of the public transit agencies and a lot of the bigger NEMTs throughout the country, they will have a trainer on staff. So when someone new comes on board, they don't have to worry about it. They'll schedule the time, and they'll have that person do their training. On the flip,
I like that title, Jim Cermak, the Past Master.
I like it. I'm gonna have to add that to my business card. But one other situation which I have with a few clients is they're constantly growing, constantly changing their drivers, bringing on new drivers, and yet they don't want to handle that responsibility in-house. They would rather me come in every single time. And I have some local here to the Cleveland area. They call me, Jim, when's your next training? When's your next training? Since I live here in Cleveland, I'm a lot more flexible in this area. So I can turn those trainings around, and I've trained a lot of companies here in the Cleveland area. So I can reach out, and I'm constantly finding people. Oh, so glad you reached out. Yeah, we've got 2 new people started. And so we'll do those. So it depends on, each company. Some want to have that control and that responsibility in-house. Others want to farm it out.
Yeah. Here's another question that, again, I'm happy to edit out if this is not, but I'm curious to know if you have any stats on transportation businesses that have their drivers past trained versus the ones that don't, and the rate of accidents or incidents that happen.
I don't personally have that. I have seen there have been studies where the rates of accidents and incidents have gone significantly down. The one that I can't quote it, but I remember seeing something where there was a company that had 9 incidents, whether that was someone getting injured on the vehicle because they fell out of their chair, or something wasn't done correctly by the driver, but it had to do with either the onboarding or the securement or something. It had 9 in a single year. It was a fairly decent sized company. They had all their passengers go through training, and that went down to 1 the following year. So a significant reduction. Other than that, I don't have any real stats for you. All I know is that I have my clients raving about not only the training, but the fact that their drivers remember it, and they are more professional, and they are safer in what they do. And then
And then just
if you,
to throw that point about being more professional, right? So like
yeah,
one thing is, sure, the rate of accidents and incidents go down, which is a very concrete benefit to an NEMT business, right? But the
yeah,
other thing is when your drivers get this kind of training, they're just more professional. And
yeah,
so your NEMT business's ratings or reviews or clout, it just grows because people know, oh, this NEMT business, I like their drivers. Their drivers treat the passengers well. Like it just grows your reputation. And
yeah.
that's like the huge intangible thing. And I mean, me, from talking with hundreds of NEMT businesses across the country, like I very clearly see that reputation, it's often the make or break of the NEMT businesses that grow and become very successful and the ones that don't. And this is so directly tied to an NEMT business increasing their reputation.
It is such an important point, and a message to any NEMT that's out there that is going, we have high turnover, or we don't see the benefit of investing in training like this. A couple things. One, and we talked about this earlier, one accident, one incident can cause a lawsuit that could cripple your company. This is a small investment compared to that. Also, you're investing in your drivers. They understand that. They might say, oh, I got to go to this training. But inside, they know that you're, as a company, are investing in them. You're giving them a skill or helping reinforce and strengthening a skill that is going to be important to their job. And now you're putting the keys to a very expensive asset, that vehicle. I know they're expensive, right? They're $70,000, $100,000 or more. And you're putting the keys into a driver's hands. But even more so, you're putting the care of your customers, the lifeblood of your business, you're putting them into the hands of your drivers. Don't just treat them like a minimum wage or a low paid person, and don't look at that as just a revolving door of, we'll get another driver in here. No, invest in them. And if you invest in them, they will stick around, even if it's a tough job.
Driver, that's literally another huge cost, finding
Yes.
drivers and retaining them.
Yes. And what are the customers like? They like the same drivers over and over and over because they build relationships. They have that comfort level, especially seniors, especially those who are the most vulnerable. They want to know there's consistency there. And if they're constantly seeing new drivers from you, there's no reason to stick around. They'll go to another company.
Jim, if you had to just make an educated guess about what portion of NEMT businesses have their drivers trained properly, what do you think it is?
Wow. I really don't even have a guess. I would say smaller than you would think. I think the bigger the company gets, the more they realize the importance of it. Or if, like you said, you're in a state like Ohio where it's mandated. If it's private pay, that's one thing. But if you're going after that Medicare, that Medicaid money, you've got to have drivers that are fully trained. And if you're dealing with a broker that is requiring it. But other than that, I think, yeah.
Forget, the requirements, like, a few states or a few brokers may require it, but let's say you just do it anyway, even though it's not required. I mean, this is something that when you go and try to win contracts directly with facilities or whatever programs, you can say, hey, my drivers have this official past training, and that actually can help you win business, even though it may not be required, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I had a client that was going after a large hospital contract, and they were a decent sized NEMT going after a large hospital contract. It got renewed every year, and they went after it like 4 years in a row, and they finally got it. And they went back and they said, well, what was it this year? They said, your drivers are trained. That was the first year you had officially certified trained drivers, and that got them the contract. So I know firsthand that is a benefit of being able to get new contracts, because you're giving, all of a sudden now you got a leg up on your competition. If everything else looks the same, you got the same vehicles, you got a good reputation in the industry, but now you have certified drivers. That's taking risk away from your client, and that's putting just making you look so much better.
It's just so incredibly obvious to at least the two of us that this getting, paying for your drivers to get training does not cost your business. It doesn't put you in the negative. It helps you make more money. It helps you be more profitable from multiple different angles. And yeah, I mean, thank you so much for coming on and helping hopefully tons of NEMT businesses realize something that should be very obvious.
Absolutely. It's an honor to do what I do every day. And last message to all those listening and watching, this is an investment. Consider it an investment. Just like when you buy that next vehicle, it's a big investment, but you do it. Why? Because you've got to have reliable vehicles, safe vehicles to get people around. You have to do the same thing. Treat your driver with the same level of respect as your vehicles, and pour into them, invest in them, and that will pay off for you.
Jim, I just love your passion for what you do. Thank you so much.
Run, Bambi, run.